Mi nombre es Luisa Thalia Lopez de la Facultad de Idiomas Tijuana, UABC. Sexto semestre. Esta vez estaré con el doctor Rowe que nos va a estar dando ejemplos y nos va a estar dando un poco de teoría acerca del constructivismo. Él tiene más de 30 años enseñando en aulas con técnicas como el constructivismo, entre otras. Este semestre acaba de terminar con francés 3, inglés 6 y alemán 3, ahí mismo en la Facultad de Idiomas Tijuana. Sí.
Well, okay. Well, let me get back in the picture then here. I'll change the camera over a little bit. You probably saw the edge of my shoulder before. Okay, and I'll try to fix it to where the camera, you can see both of us here. All right, so yeah, as Thalia said, I've been teaching languages for more than 30 years. Started teaching French, actually, in Vietnam more than 30 years ago. So one of the things I really like to use in the classroom is an approach which could be considered a constructivist approach. So what I'd like to do right now is give a brief overview of the theory behind that you may wish to investigate a little bit more on your own, and then give an example of actually what I do in the classroom, and Thalia will play the role of the student, and I'll play, of course, the role of the professor. Okay, so just to position my approach in the language learning theory, or in language learning theory, a lot of what I do was strongly influenced by the structural global audiovisual method, which was actually developed way back in the 1960s, primarily in France, but it was based on the work of Peter Guberina, and about that time in the U.S., it was the audio-lingual method that was dominant. So anyhow, the structural global audiovisual approach is much closer to a constructivist approach, much closer to a cognitive approach than the more behavioral-based theory or practice of the audio-lingual method. Fast forwarding to the 1980s, we see a fellow named Stephen Krashen write about second language acquisition as distinguished from second language learning. Stephen Krashen was emphasizing the importance of actually getting a lot of comprehensible input so the students can actually construct through their interaction with the language their own internal grammar of the language, and so that internal grammar becomes more and more like the real grammar of the language. And of course, we could talk for hours about Stephen Krashen and his work and comprehensible input, but we won't. That just gives you one component of the theory that has influenced me. And a couple other things real briefly that have influenced me: schema theory that fits into the constructivist approach. That is, we have a schema in our minds, and learning is a matter of adapting those schema adapting the schema to new information as it comes in, so that it becomes part of the structure of knowledge we have in our heads, and particularly, in this case, our internal grammar. And finally, there's a lot of writing about locus of control, especially in the area of learning. And when students realize that, their learning is really their own responsibility, that locus of control resides with them, that's another important concept that needs to be in place for a constructivist approach to language learning to work. So a lot of talk there. I hope that gives you sort of an interesting overview. Let's go right now to the example. I have a couple of handouts here, one which I have a copy of myself. Oh, here we go. And this handout, these are the lyrics to a song. And in this case, we're going to be doing a song called Where the Streets Have No Names, a song by U2. And Thalia also has her handout, which I passed out before we got started here. All right, and right here I have my iPod, which I have used just about every day in class this past semester with my French class, and English class, and German class. And one thing in particular I like to do is bring music as an activity into the classroom. So we're going to see how this works out in actual practice. So what I normally do in the classroom is I play a song. I pick a song that will be of interest to the students, that they may be familiar with from a previous time, that they'll be something that will motivate them to get involved, to listen, to desire to understand it. And we normally listen to the song the whole time through, at least one time. We won't do that tonight. We don't have enough time because of their time limit on the video. So here we go, though. We'll listen to part of it. So, Thalia, you have your hand out there?
Yes.
Okay, if you'd listen, we'll start off listening to the song.
I want you high. I want to tear down the walls and hold me inside. I want to reach out and touch the flame where the streets have no name. Okay. So, like I said, normally I would play through the whole song once, but we'll stop now after the first stanza. All right, so, all right, Thalia, let's use this as, first of all, a little bit of discussion, a focus for some discussion, or questions at least. I want to run. I want to hide. I want to tear down the walls that hold me inside. I want to reach out and touch the flame where the streets have no name. First of all, do you have any questions about the vocabulary that's being used there? Sí, no sé qué significa tear down.
Okay, tear down. All right, if you can imagine a sheet of paper, like I have a sheet of paper here, and I'm not going to tear the whole thing, but if I do this, that's tearing, right? You can tear a sheet of paper. But if you tear something down, that's usually associated with something like a building, something that's stronger than a piece of paper. And tearing it down means destroying it, essentially. You can imagine a building, and you can imagine bulldozers going in and tearing down a building, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, any other questions about the vocabulary that's used there? Okay. All right, so how about let's use this as a little bit of some pronunciation practice, some phonetics, some pronunciation. I want to run. Can you repeat that for me? I want to run.
I want to run.
I want to hide.
I want to hide.
I want to tear down the walls that hold me inside.
I want to tear down the walls that hold me inside.
Okay, good. I want to reach out.
I want to reach out.
And touch the flame.
And touch the flame.
Where the streets have no name.
Where the streets have no name.
Okay. Then what I would normally do in class, after we've heard the whole song, and after we've discussed it a little bit, introduced it, I've asked various students if they have questions about it, is I would next ask them to get together in groups of 2 or 3 to discuss the meaning of the song. And this then switches the focus of the activity from me as a teacher asking them questions, that interaction, to an interaction among themselves, which gives them a lot more opportunity to discuss. But since we don't have any other students with us here tonight, we'll just have to simulate that activity and imagine that it happened. So after the students have had a chance to do that, then I get the class back together, and usually I'll leave them for maybe 5-10 minutes discussing the song. Then we get back together as a whole class and see what questions the students may have come up with, ask them about their interpretation, the various groups. And then, as a wrap-up to that particular activity, I tell them that their assignment for tonight is to take home this handout, to study the words, and if possible, if they have a computer connection, to listen to the song on YouTube, for example, or they may have the song on their iPod or a CD or something. And then I inform them that tomorrow, when they come back to class, that they will have a dictation exercise on this particular song. So what that does is it puts some little bit of incentive, excuse me, for the students then to spend some time on their own, good time, reviewing this at home, because then you'll know there's going to be a test on it the following day. So when they come back from class the next day, I say, okay, any questions about this song? No questions, or some questions? If there are questions, we discuss it a little bit more. And then I give them a dictation exercise based on 2 or 3 of the stanzas of the song. And that is about it. So, well, Thalia, any other questions or observations about what we're doing here? Any comments for the video?
Solo quería decir como resumen final que en esta actividad, en este ejercicio que acabamos de realizar, como el constructivismo lo pide, el Dr. Rowe hace el papel de facilitador para los estudiantes, así impulsa que ellos construyan su propio conocimiento. Aquí ellos van a descifrar en grupos como lo que ellos piensan que esta canción significa, van a compartir, comparar y descubrir sus ideas, que es lo que el constructivismo, que es la meta principal del constructivismo, hacer que el alumno piense y reflexione y construya interiormente su conocimiento para después mantenerlo en su memoria a largo plazo.
So is that it?
Sí, creo que es todo. Muchas gracias.
Hey, thank you very much, Thalia. And thank you for watching. Bye to everyone out there in YouTube land.